What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Got a break from fall practice from camp. It is a light day today, so we're not out there. We will be back tomorrow. Wanted to just kind of catch up on really some players that are making a move, right? Guys that are maybe forgotten about or not talked about enough. Certainly asked about a lot, may not talked about enough on our end, who are starting to improve, get more playing time, make a move, show real strides. And we'll get to some of those names. Pete's got a lot of recruiting information. He'll update you on the latest in the work. And we'll talk a little Canes baseball too, because I know they've been asking in the chat about Canes baseball. First, want to talk about some folks that they don't need to gear up for the season. They are always in season as Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
Good morning, D.
How we doing?
Doing well. Good to be back doing a normal show. We've been on the road the last few weeks, and then obviously with practice starting, the schedule hasn't been normal, so to speak. So we're back at it today.
I see you with the wave vest on, still working. Yeah, it's been a lot, man. I love going to practice. It's probably my favorite thing in the whole world, aside from spending time with my family. So I'm excited to get back there tomorrow, but I was going to get a break and kind of reflect on things that we've seen. All the, kind of just, we have our notepads and everything. We try to give people tidbits every day, but big picture, now that we've had a few practices in, I think it's time to just recoup and go over some names that maybe we didn't expect or we didn't talk about a ton as far as like locks to make moves, who are getting more playing time and are doing more things. Guys we had high hopes for at one time, and now maybe could be materializing into players that we thought they might be.
Yeah, and I think with a couple of these guys here that we'll talk about in a second, it's not that I don't think we've given up on them, but we've hyped guys, and we've hyped a couple of these guys in particular at times over the years. And obviously with one of them we'll talk about, not to give too much away, injuries has hampered. With the other one, there's a lot of noise. There's always been a lot of noise around him, but it's taken a couple years for him to have an opportunity, I think, really to be in this position. And then really, like, we got to understand that it takes time with a lot of these players, and I'm excited to get into it, man.
Yeah, no, let's start at the receiver position with Ray Joseph, Nathaniel Ray Joseph from Edison. He gets a lot of, I don't say publicity, but a lot of discussion in Canes message boards, CanesInsight.com, 7.5 million posts and counting, the biggest free Canes community, the biggest Canes community period on the planet. Check that one out. Sign up today. And also, Canes Spaces, Twitter, all that kind of stuff, YouTube comments. A lot of that's because his old coach was your old buddy, the avatar on the website that you had for a while, Uncle Luke. So that leads to a lot of discussion. Why isn't he playing more? Whatever. He had that jersey number, the big 35 last year that made him look slower. And people kind of got upset about that, I guess. But there's a guy who
only on punt returns.
That's right. And he's a guy that we've talked to, we've interviewed, really like the human being, great personality, highly intelligent, loves Miami. So like Canes 305 says, we all want Ray to succeed so bad. And I think no one more than himself. And he's someone who's been working diligently, former running back, former just kind of ball in the hands, do it, here's the ball, make it happen kind of guy. Now becoming more of a pure receiver, has been working at it diligently. And I think starting in spring, really, we talked about it, and now continuing into August camp, we are seeing more and more strides, Pete. And while you're talking about him, I'm going to pull up his high school highlights just so people can remember how dynamic this guy is.
Yeah, the hard work is always something that's spoken about with him. And we said it, 2-3 weeks ago, maybe when talking about the wide receiver group and previewing the group. I don't know if that was one of those days that you were on or you weren't able to be on, as we have the dog barking here
it's honey
behind me. I'll let you take over here while it calms down.
He's going to take care of Honey. But yeah, so you see Ray here in these high school highlights. This is a dynamic player with the ball in his hands. That's why he was committed to Clemson. Clemson was after him, 4-star player. I think the hard thing for him was really the transition from here's the ball. And you can see, look at these highlights. Ball's right there. And then it's all after the catch is where you see the spectacular play, as opposed to, running routes, getting open, catching the ball with his hands, etc. So I think these are the things that you see from Ray Joseph. I mean, look at these high school highlights. Everything is short. You see him improve now with his ability to separate, his ability to sort of just have a feel as a wide receiver. So Restrepo was also a running back, so they have similarities in that regard. But Restrepo also played quarterback. He played defense. I just think he had maybe more of a feel right away for where to be, where to sit down in the zone, how to come back to the quarterback, just be quarterback friendly. I think he just had a better sense of that. Whereas Ray, as you see, all of this, catch the ball, make something happen. It was a process to become more of a wide receiver, and you see that process starting to pay dividends as he continues to play. Canes Cat saying, no disrespect, but he's had 2 years of film. Why are we not showing his Miami film? Number one, it's copyrighted. There, Canes Cat 305. Number two, we want to showcase his athletic ability. But go ahead, Pete.
Well, number one, what I was going to get to when we were talking about the receiver position in the previews, like we always make note of guys that stick around that very easily could have been looked at as a transfer candidate. I mentioned how I think it was with Tristan Keys when he was down here. Mario had Ray hosting him on his visits back in the spring, and like that shows me that he's a part of the plans, right? Similarly to how we talk about Samson Okunlola and on the offensive line position, how he's kind of been, I don't want to say protected in a way by Alex Mirabal, but there's an obvious like effort to let the kid know, hey, we aren't giving up on you inside the building. And I think that's kind of the same thing that has happened with Ray. But at the same time saying, look, just because you're going to get an opportunity doesn't mean that you're gonna be the starter. You got to go earn it. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the return man. You've had that opportunity the last couple of years. They went and look what they've done. They've brought guys in who are All-Americans, all-conference type guys as return men, right? So they're bringing in competition. You also have to, I think, give the kid a lot of credit in today's era for not bouncing and not entering the portal. That's why I said for a guy that maybe you could peg as a portal candidate after his first 2 years here with, where guys like Canes Cats Heat are saying, hey, he hasn't done anything in 2 years. I think these guys become valuable over time because if him and a Samson can become valuable contributors, and Samson, by the way, is not even, I don't even think it was a guy that we were going to talk about in this, I didn't show necessarily when we were talking about guys who have taken a step. I'm just throwing him in there because I think
we'll talk about him.
Category.
I think that's I didn't put him on the rundown, but now talking about him, we'll talk
because I made a note about him yesterday that he looks like he's playing with a little more confidence out there in the limited things that I've seen from the trenches. But not to get too off track, there's an opportunity, and Ray I think hopefully now is about to seize it.
Yep, 100%. I think there was a comment about how he looked. This is from Rod Vick saying that, hopes Ray was moving a little faster. He looked more like a 4.55 guy. I don't know if he gained weight like a Braxton Berrios did, Restrepo did. Because he almost looked like a running back at times. Part of it is when we saw him more 35 so much, the number was not flattering. But just in general, I thought he did look a little stronger and bulkier, more like a running back. Whereas when I see him in spring and now here in camp in August, and I said it then, I'm saying it now, he just looks a little quicker and more explosive. Maybe it's confidence, maybe it's just, perception. But I'd be curious to know if he did lose some weight. Because if I were him, I think he was a little too heavy. He doesn't need to be that heavy if he's going to play wide receiver. He's not a running back anymore. He's not taking that kind of pounding. He needs to lose, in my opinion, and not that he was like eating, fat or anything, but just he doesn't need to be so strong and bulky. I think speedier is better for him, just like it was for Berrios. Berrios gained too much weight, slowed him down. and got better when he got slimmer. I could see something similar with Ray in terms of just losing weight. Yeah, I don't see him as a punt returner this year. He's going to have a chance, but I think Tony, Keontae Scott, even Bryce Fitzgerald are probably going to be more potent in that respect. But he is going to have a chance to play. He's improving. He's catching the ball. And, Pete, I think a guy like Brashard Smith, who ultimately ended up playing running back, but really didn't make an impact. I think his third year, he started returning kicks at a high level, right? And became one of the better kick returners in the country. Then his fourth year, he became one of the better running backs in the ACC, if not the country. So I'm not saying the same is going to happen for Ray. I'm sure he hopes, and probably best for the team, that it happens at wide receiver. But it just whatever he's good at, hopefully he finds that on the field, because he does have some skills, as you're seeing in these highlights. And I hope that they find a role for him where he can help this team and use that ability to make guys miss, to break tackles, to have balance and make plays.
Well, and I'll say this, because I'm looking at the comments here, and Gio says everyone wants to be the guy, off of what Canes Cats Heat 305 saying Ray wants to be the guy. The interview that he did made me a Ray ride or die. I think Ray wants to contribute, man. I think that's really what it comes down. He unfortunately has not really contributed the first couple of years, right? For a variety of factors, as we've gotten into, right? And I think he's the sort of player that just hasn't had much confidence. I go back to that drop against Florida last year. I think that messed his confidence up, man. I really do. And it's bigger than one play sometimes, but we've talked about it at times. After that first the top four receiver last year, there wasn't many reps for even a JoJo Trader for who we're expecting to be a big part of the offense this year. But still, he just needs some confidence. So if he starts to contribute, if he can be a positive factor for this team early on in the season, then I think it changes the dynamic for him, man. I think you scheme him a few touches early in the season. You scheme him a couple touches against a Notre Dame, and things could really open up for him if he has some success there.
Yeah, we always talk about it. Confidence is huge. Confidence is absolutely huge. I really, even something stupid like the number, man. I think he heard all that stuff. He heard people clowning him for the number. It's the stupidest thing in the world, but I think it's a real thing. He needs some early success, a long touchdown. Obviously Notre Dame would be great, but even if it's against a Bethune, just something to get him feeling like himself, like someone who can make guys miss, because he played with a ton of confidence in high school. He knew he was the man, and he performed that way. So hopefully that happens. I think he's going in the right direction. He's certainly not stagnating or going backwards. He's improving, and that's what you want from a player who works hard like he does.
Yep. So who's the next person you want here? Oh, by the way, hold on a second. Shout out to Kellen Wiley Sr., man. He said, "Good morning, fellas. Sorry I'm late. We just started like 10 minutes ago, so appreciate you as always, Senior." I met Junior yesterday, man, in the parking lot outside of the gym, and I told him to say what's up to you. I told him we appreciate your support, man. Very respectful young man. And hey, man, the rumors are true. He's that's a big boy right there, everybody. That's 240 in the flesh. I can confirm that.
Yeah, man, he is definitely got the size. Definitely respect. He walked up to me at practice. I wasn't even paying attention, and he walked up after going through that very hard practice and said, "What's up?" So yeah, shout out to the Wiley family. And it's funny. I do these old recruiting. There you go. Kellen Wiley is going to be on Bruce Feldman's top 100 freaks list next year per Geo. Not a bad idea. I do those old recruiting roundups, and this is before a lot of people's time. But we had a guy named Eddie Johnson who, like Pete, I know you remember, had just great size, great speed, physical, playmaker. He looked like Superman, but he did not have it off the field, and that prevented him from having success. So I think Kellen Wiley, looking for a comp, maybe Eddie Johnson with a much better head on his shoulders. That makes sense to you, Pete?
Yeah, and I mean Kellen's bigger as well. Eddie was what, 6'1"?
Yeah. Strong, but not as tall as Kellen
But
Wiley.
versatile. I mean, that's the one thing about Eddie Johnson that I loved is like he could run, he could get sideline to sideline. He could play in coverage, he could blitz. So he was a 3-down linebacker, and I think that's what you're looking for at that position is those guys who you don't have to take off the field in any situation really.
No doubt about it.
That was the Georgia Tech game, man. That was it, a double overtime game. Mike James had a big game in Atlanta, and then he had the stop on the goal line there. I was at that game. That was a good win, man. It was like a 7 win team that year, 8-win team.
Yeah, good on offense, bad on defense. Kind of the theme with Golden. The thing about A. Johnson, I remember, and relating it to Kellen Wiley here, is I remember watching. We got him on signing day. No one knew who he was really. And I remember watching his film, and I'm like, how in the world did we get a guy like this out of Atlanta? This guy's the best player I've seen all year. And then, of course, with the character stuff, we found out what the issue was. With Kellen Wiley, he had a similar kind of like ascent where no one heard of him at the beginning of the year. And then you look at his highlights and they're like 5-star. The difference with him is he actually ended up rated a highly ranked 4-star player, and Texas, which had the #1 recruiting class in the country, was trying to get Kellen Wiley. We ended up winning that battle on signing day, which was a huge boost on an otherwise tough signing day. So that tells you a little something. Sometimes they're too good to be true. There's a reason. Kellen Wiley, he may not have started off as that big-time recruit, but he finished as that big-time recruit where you had to beat the #1 recruiting class in the country, Texas, to get him. And I think he's showing you that skill. But stay on linebacker while we talk about these guys that are making steps, Pete. Chase Smith, another guy we got a lot of questions about. This is a player who is a 2021, class of 2021 player. So to me, just to show you how old Mo Torre is, I think Chase Smith's been around forever, right, Pete? Doesn't feel like he's been around forever. He's in the class with Jake Garcia, with James Williams, with Leonard Taylor. He's 2 years younger than Mo Torre, who was in the class of 19. Just to show you how long it's been.
I listen, I rep Chase for a bit when he first got to Miami too. That's my boy. So I go back with Chase as well. You were touting him as a future first rounder early on in his career at Miami. The injuries have hurt him, but I mean, look, I'll say even about a month ago when I ran into Chase, he told me, he said, look, this is about as good as I felt. And when guys are coming back from injuries, it's one thing to say it, but I don't know that it's always easy to just go out there and play with that confidence. I think last year was almost like a year to rinse all that off of him. And based on what, we're going to talk about here, what has happened in the early part of practice, it looks like he has an opportunity, right, where he's getting a lot of reps here and playing confidently.
Yeah, with respect to Chase Smith, it's exactly right. You're taking me down memory lane. I remember seeing him practice. First of all, he was a wide receiver / safety. Question from Josh Gross, where is he from? He's from like that Melbourne, Palm Bay area, right? A little north of South Florida on the East Coast. So he's somebody who his dad played here, tight end, really good tight end. I remember watching him in high school. He was playing wide receiver, he was playing safety. He was 6'4". He could hit. He was a striker. He was super fast, and saying, man, this guy's going to be unbelievable. Gets to Miami right away, makes plays. If you go watch his first spring game, which would have been the 2021 spring game, he was moving around, going side to side, running things down. He looked elite. Not elite at the time, but elite in the future, right? A guy that was like, if you were to pick like 4 players you want to keep from that team, he was one of them at that time. That's when I told you, hey, you got to rep this kid. Mario comes in. Chase Smith is their best special teams player, looking like he's about to get it going on defense. Blows out his knee. So it's been kind of a process from there. Starts and stops. Never really had the full-on athleticism. And he's a guy that he thrives off athleticism. He's not like, a Jonathan Vilma that's just a pure linebacker. He's a guy that's going to run, chase, make plays. You saw him make a few plays in the Florida game last year. Seemed like he might have been making that step. Didn't quite get there. Defense had a million problems besides him. Kellen Wiley saying he looks really good at Chase Smith. But now he's a senior. He's been around forever. He's in a defense that hopefully suits him. We talk about Heatherman saying he likes athletes with length. That's Chase Smith. I don't know how much he's weighing right now. Those heights and weights are pretty hard to peg, but he is one of the bigger defensive players, linebackers we've seen in that back seven. He looks big, running well. And he's starting to get a lot more reps. I thought it was before the season. I thought it was going to be Motore, Wesley Basaint, Kamal Bonner, and Popo Aguirre battling as far as like the more experienced guys. But Chase Smith's right in that battle, along with the young guys like Wiley and Pruitt as well.
Just a quick note on the weights. We were told the other day that we would be getting updated weights. They handed like it was going to be updated on the online roster soon. They handed us a paper that had updated weights, and I will say it was the day after media day, and there was some stuff that lined up. They must have stepped on the scale the day before, because Malachi Tony, for example, told me he was 188. The paper said 188. There was another couple that were like obscure. Bryce Fitzgerald told me he was 187. The paper had said 187. So let me go find. I have the paper. I have that actual paper lying around somewhere. Maybe tomorrow we can look at some weights. But it seemed pretty verified. So it might be a nice tool for us to look at.
By the way, I agree with. I mean, not say I agree. I believe those weights. Bryce Fitzgerald to me looks 187.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't fight about that one. I think he actually does look at that.
No, I wasn't skeptical about it at all. It was just like, it's, you know how it is. Sometimes guys are like, oh, I'm in this range to this range, but these guys like specifically told me, like these numbers that I was like, they'd have to like make that up. So they must have just like seen it on the scale that morning or something to randomly come up with that number.
Blue's asking, what about Jalen Alderman? Is he an afterthought? No, actually, he was making plays last time I was out there. So, I mean, yesterday. So he's somebody who is definitely not an afterthought. He's in the mix. And actually, when I watched Alderman make some plays, I thought to myself, I said, you got Motore, who's been a productive player in the Big Ten. You have Wesley Basaint, Popo Aguirre, who made plays for Miami last year, or, ACC linebackers they played. You think of Kamal Bonner, starter for NC State last year, probably their best linebacker towards the bottom, probably the best defensive player down the stretch, according to them, at least their best young defensive player. And then Jalen Alderman started for Louisville on a team that went to the ACC championship. So you have a lot of guys in that linebacker room that have played a lot of ACC football as starters, or a lot of Power 4 football as starters. Chase Smith's another veteran, hasn't started as many games, but he's played. And then, of course, you have the young guys, the Pruitts, the Kellen Wileys of the world. So that's a room that when you, like, I don't know if there's a first rounder this year kind of guy, or day two kind of guy this year, maybe. I don't think so. We'll see. But you got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football and played big Power 4, big game football. I think that linebacker core's experience, like Travis Thomas hit it right here. The floor is high, I think, with that linebacker room, which is more than we've said in the past.
I think Wesley Basaint is going to be a guy who ends up having more NFL buzz than people realize.
Yeah, he was the one. When I said it, I immediately thought he could potentially be that
just
guy.
I talked to someone a few weeks ago, and he like, there's intrigue about him because he looks like your modern day linebacker who can move, your modern day off ball linebacker who can move and play in space. He's got to put it all together, right? I think there's some stuff on film from like a recognition standpoint that the league is not going to love, but he's a type of athlete that you want. And I think, again, with the buzzword, the keyword all offseason with the defense has been simplification, has been the communication, and I think that should help him.
No doubt about it. It's going to be interesting. He looks big at 230. Just seeing him, interviewing him for Storm Sessions, which you haven't seen that episode of Storm Sessions, check it out. I mean, he looks strong, but he doesn't look bulky, right? He looks a good 230, great head on his shoulders. This new defense, we're going to see who kind of elevates with this new defense. He's one that he was good last year in a pretty bad defense. Not great. I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you he has higher expectations than what he did, but there's another level he can get to in this defense. So I'm curious to see what that is. So, P, we're only going to talk about two players in this segment, but I want to talk about three. You brought it up earlier because the third one fits exactly what we're talking about, which is By the way, appreciate you, P, from Chicago. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your support. There's a third guy, Samson Okunlola. And with Samson, Coach Mirabal has been he's been on a warpath as far as like talking to media. And he's been like, he said the same thing, which really you could say the same thing about Ray Ray. You could say the same thing about Chase Smith. You could say the same thing about all these guys. But he's like, listen, we should be celebrating the guys in the portal era who stay and develop, who want to be Canes, who want to be coached, and who want to develop. Of course, Ray Ray and Chase fit that. Samson fits that as well. And what I'll say about Samson is he is going to play this year, unless he gets hurt or something weird happens. He's going to play. Do I think he's the starter with Markel Bell, McCoy, Brockmeyer, Cooper, Malinois in the mix? I don't know. Probably not, given their experience and their talent level. But he's going to find his way on the field. And I think he's going to show us whether or not he can be that guy next year, whether it's at left tackle, left guard, right tackle, right guard. One of those spots, I could see Samson. And look, I hope no one gets injured, but we all know injuries happen. We've probably been lucky with the offensive line injuries, although Jalen Rivers missed some time last year. Markel Bell probably played earlier than we thought he would. But keep an eye on Samson. There's a reason why Mirabal keeps pushing him. He is going to play this year. At least I would be surprised if he doesn't play. And I don't mean blowouts. I mean in real games.
Something I mentioned on Samson, which I think at his position is really important, is this is an example of where NIL, I think, is used for good. These guys can get a lot of work in, pay top level NFL trainers to work with them outside of the facility, because for as good as Mirabal is, these coaches are only allotted so much time to be working with them, which, it's pretty stupid to me. I think they should be able to work with them as much as they want. Especially when you're talking about non-contact stuff. I'm talking about the actual, getting on the field with them and working on skills development. But I know he's put in a lot of work this offseason with Torian Wilson, who you're familiar with as well. Goes by Crafting Lineman on Instagram, and he's one of the top offensive line trainers. He trains. He's at the facility that Bomberitos is at, up in Aventura. So like he's a guy who works with a lot of the top NFL guys, a lot of the top draft guys coming out. At O-line, there's so much work, I think, with Samson, the footwork, just like the foot speed, just the athletic stuff needed to be worked on a lot more outside of what you can even do in the facility. And we talk about, well, the speed of the game was an adjustment. It's more than just mental. It's like physically, right? And he's put in a lot of work, I know, this offseason with that. I know he was working there with Jalen Rivers a lot when he was down here this offseason. So all of that stuff goes a long way at that position in particular. And I think that's where he can go out, and before it's like, a lot of these trainers would do it to say, well, I'll train you when you get to the league, but there's no limit on it now. You can just pay these trainers and get that extra work. And I think we see CJ Daniels does the same thing. And like, I don't know all these guys' arrangements with these trainers, but it's a lot more prevalent now than it was previously. And for these trainers, just not to get too much into it, but these trainers, they say, well, even if this guy doesn't make it, I can, make money with this guy now while he's getting paid in college. So just an interesting dynamic.
100%. By the way, like and subscribe to this show. We are on every day, multiple times a day, especially during practice season. So we are on. I agree with you totally, Pete. I think the reason I've always felt that Samson is someone that didn't want to kind of give up on is because of the intelligence and the commitment. This guy's already graduated college, so everybody thinks focus on the NIL, the 5-star, whatever. When you're talking about guys that are so mentally solid, both from just an IQ standpoint and also from a work ethic and kind of discipline standpoint, ambition standpoint, you want to bet on those guys because they face adversity, then they push through and they just work harder and work smarter, like what you're talking about, Pete, working outside of the allotted time you can do at University of Miami. So that is what I like about Samson. He's a wrestler, so he has that ability to kind of wrestle guys around. He does have quick feet. He gets to the second level very quick. So I am high on Samson Okunlola. Tommy Kinsler's another one where it's just physically he's probably the best of all these guys, and he's starting to mature, just physically, mentally, ready to rock and roll. So those are really the two guys to keep an eye on for like, are these going to be pillars of your team next year? And I think you'll see both of those guys play. But Samson in particular, there's a reason why Mirabal's sort of on a press offensive, right? He wants to reverse the narrative on Samson, and I don't think he's saying it just because he likes Samson personally. I think it's because he wants Samson to get ready to play, and he doesn't want any kind of distractions off the field.
Yeah, I think with these sort of players that we're talking about, they become, I think the fan base gets frustrated with them because they become troll points from other fan bases. They become recruiting pitches. Well, look, this guy was a top recruit, and look what happened to him there. And it's not necessarily always fair to the kids who are sticking it out and are really doing all they can to make it happen. So obviously it's a different era with NIL. This is what comes with it. We can't ignore that fact either. But let's hope that these guys can make true to what we all hope and have hope since they signed with Miami can become of them.
Absolutely. I'll tell you this. These guys have been here long enough to know what the number one Cuban restaurant in the city of Miami is, and quite frankly, on the planet. That is Islas Canarias Cuban Express. 7 different types of croquetas, sandwiches, empanadas, loaded fries, tostones, soups, creams, bowls, all kinds of drinks, including Cuban coffee. You name it, they got it at Islas Canarias, right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion. You don't have to go very far. It's right there, located off the metro, easy to find, middle of everything, and you'll be full for the entire day without feeling sick or bloated. This is just great, high-quality Cuban food that has been around for 40-plus years and counting. And by the way, I was talking to John, one of the owners of Islas Canarias, yesterday, and there's a lot of interest. I see it in the comments all the time for like a meetup or something at Islas Canarias. Let us know what you want to do.